Okay, welcome to Ryan Spelts podcast. I'm excited today to have Brett Hadley with me, a good friend of mine. Known each other for, 4, 5, 6 years, somewhere in there. And we served together on some church activities and also got to know each other professionally as well. So I'm excited to have him. I'm Ryan Spelts, CEO of Connection Publishing, and we're a local publication company and a local digital advertising agency that we help people with their local businesses do well. And so I love doing these interviews with other local entrepreneurs. And Brett's probably one of the top entrepreneurs in the area. He's got a pretty big and successful business that he and a partner run. And so I'm excited to interview you about it.
Excited to be here.
So let's just start with a little bit of history. Tell me, how did you get, I think it was an electrical business first, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
But how did you get into it? And when did you start?
Yeah, so I've actually been an electrician since I was 14.
Okay.
So back then, the state would let you get your apprentice license when you were 14. My dad and my uncle had taken over my grandpa's business. So Hadley Electric actually started in like 1954.
Wow.
So when I turned 14 and was able to get my apprentice license, my dad was all over that so that he could take me to work with him, especially during the summers. And so I learned how to wire houses and all of that stuff. And in high school, it gave me a good after-school job for a couple hours a day to go and wire houses. And so that's how I learned the trade. Mm-hmm. I served an LDS mission in Germany for a couple of years, came back. I had a scholarship to Weber State, so I did end up going to Weber State for a year before my mission and a year after and got my associate's degree. But at that time, I looked at what I was making working for my dad compared to what all my friends were making and decided that maybe an electrician is a good path for me to take. So, yeah. So I got married and ended up going to electrical school and got all my licenses. And in 2004, my father-in-law, who owns a plumbing business here in the area, approached me about maybe leaving my dad's company and starting a service and repair electrical company. So Hadley Electric was all new construction, mm-hmm. And so it was we weren't going to compete with my dad and his company, and so we looked into it and joined a best practices group that was just starting up, and made a couple of plans without telling my dad. After we had talked about it for a while, I went to my dad and his partner. He actually had two partners at that time, another guy that had worked for him forever, and so there was 3 partners in the business. And I told him, I says, hey, my father-in-law's thinking about starting this electrical business, wants me to come over and run it. And of course, you can imagine he wasn't really happy or excited about that. Yeah. And so a couple of days later, they brought me into their office and talked about maybe starting this company with them. Mm-hmm. And so it was a lot for me to think about and ponder about which way to go and how it would affect my life, right? I'd be, and my father-in-law always said, I'll put the money up, and then when you get me paid back, it'll be your business, right? Yeah. So I was looking at either having my own business or being a partner in 2 companies, but having 3 partners to work with.
Right.
Ultimately, that was the decision I made, was to stay with Hadley Electric. We started Master Electrical as a separate business, mm-hmm. Because we wanted to have a different name, right? Like, mm-hmm. part of what we were learning in this best practices group was, you want to grow a business and get it to a point where you can sell it at some point, right? When you retire, and it was, it was just said that it's better if it's not your family name, right? So that was part of the reason.
You have family to sell it to, right?
Right, unless we're gonna enslave the family to the family business, and it actually worked out really well. We grew Master Electrical even through the 2008 recession. where Hadley Electric had dropped a little bit, Master Electrical continued to grow, and it helped to bridge that hard time,
Right.
because all we were doing was service work,
Right.
right? So when the new construction died, everybody started remodeling their houses and doing stuff like that. So yeah, so we made it through that okay. And then in 2013, I had always talked to my business partners. They all had sons that wanted to buy into the business. And I says, at some point, I'm going to want to take Master Electrical, and then you guys can sell Hadley Electric to your sons. And so in 2013, we made that separation. And so that was kind of the beginnings of what Master Electrical is today.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's not just electrical now.
Yeah, so in 2013, I brought Steve on as a business partner. And Steve had some connections in the HVAC industry. And that didn't quite work out how we had expected it to. But at that time, we bought a company called Diamond Air. And so we added HVAC to our stuff, right? And we had a few other different businesses. At one time, we owned North Ogden Family Haircuts in North Ogden, and that's not in existence anymore. And about 5 years ago, we joined up with Genco Generators, and so that's a large part of our business now, is providing home standby generators for houses. So
Cool.
if I was to break down what we do now, we do electrical, heating and air conditioning, and generators.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, then those seem to be kind of natural expansions.
Right.
A lot of times, either one way or the other. One will
Yep.
take on electrical, or they'll take on HVAC. So
My father-in-law, well, actually, my brother-in-law is still a plumber, so
yeah,
can't get into the plumbing business yet.
yeah. That's the other one they go. That one
Yep.
they pull into. Although plumbing doesn't quite. I mean, when you're doing HVAC, you're doing a lot of electrical work
Sure.
too. But
Yeah.
my son worked for Howard for a long time, so I know that. Well,
Yeah.
that's cool. So talk about the business. How many employees do you have? How many trucks do you have out and about?
Yeah.
What's your annual revenue?
Okay. So right now we have about 42 employees. That includes all aspects of our business, including the office staff. So that's a huge challenge, right? To manage 42 people. I love it though. That's part of the joy of me going to work, is being able to have the communication with other people and working together to build something. Right now we have just one HVAC installation crew and service crew. I think we're at 15 electrical crews right now. And then we have 2 generator install crews and 3 service crews for generators, who go out and take care of the generators on a yearly basis.
Gotcha.
Last year, our annual revenue for the whole company was just under 10 million.
Okay.
So we're growing and
That's great.
feel good.
So tell me about your leadership style. You said you liked having those employees and being able to meet with them. What's important to you as a leader? What do you try to accomplish as a leader with that group?
Yeah, so I feel like I've had a servant leadership type role. I never have tried to put myself above any of my employees, and I hope they don't feel that way, because I feel like communication and having that camaraderie and building a great culture within the company where everybody feels like a family is super important. And we've had our ups and downs when it comes to culture, but I feel like we're at a point right now where we're building a great culture, and that's what's fun for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've never ever thought that I'm in the electrical business. I've always been in the people business. And whether that's taking care of the clients as people and providing safety, security, and peace of mind for them, or doing the same for my employees and for their families.
That's awesome. Very cool. So on the other side of that, you've been a leader. A lot of people, I know people who've worked for you. A lot of people even that don't work for you now, but have been influenced by you and have talked about that. But talk about some of the hardest times you've dealt with, some of the things that have been really challenging from a leadership standpoint and just from your business in general.
Yeah. Well, I think it all still revolves around people, right? Different personalities, different things that are going on in people's lives. one of the hardest things that I ever had to go through was the death of an employee.
I remember that.
Yeah, so he was driving a company truck and somehow went off the road and ended up killing him. And so dealing with that's a bad word, right?
Yeah. Bad connotation, but it is a hard
working through that and helping his family. He had 3 small children and a wife, and
that's hard.
But at that time, I also saw a great coming together of the rest of the company to help support that, and so if we're talking about the most difficult time, it would probably be that. But other times, just different personalities, different things that go on in people's lives. If my employees would say sometimes I hold on to people too long, right, and not let them go, and ultimately that comes down to my feelings, right, because I know what's going on in their lives, and I do have a desire to help people and to be there for them.
Yeah, I know that feeling too. Sometimes though, if it's just about money, then like you said, what kind of leader really are you if it's just about, this person isn't producing what they should produce? But an old boss of mine, we actually were just talking about him, Shane Weiser, he used to say, when it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing for both parties. Mm-hmm. It's the right thing for the company, and it's the right thing for the person. They need to change. They need something different going on in their life too. And so sometimes it helps, but sometimes it doesn't either. Right. That's like my least favorite thing, when someone isn't working out anymore and trying to find a way to navigate that.
Yeah, and a lot of times I understand what's going on in their lives, but it's not something that I can share with the other employees. So there's a balance there on how I'm helping someone versus what it looks like is happening, with all the other employees. And so just the people business, right? Yeah. Working through all of that and trying to make sure that everybody knows that they're part of the team, no matter what's going on, and we're going to try to do the best thing for them and for the company and for our clients. We have that up on our wall, a win-win-win, right? The client's has to win, the employee has to win, and the company has to win.
That's awesome. So. Yeah, that's good. Because the other side of that is that leadership mantra that says, if there's a problem as a leader within your organization and you don't take care of it, then your people either think you're ignorant to it, which they lose faith in you as a leader if you're ignorant, right? Or they think you know about it, but you're too weak to handle it. Mm-hmm. And so...
And either way, it's not good for the leader.
You don't want either one of those, right? So it's hard to balance, like you said, when they're like, this person's slacking, they're not doing their part, and why aren't you taking care of it? But then the personal side of things happening that are very heavy sometimes, and, and private, and something you would never share, so it makes it hard, but that's cool. So what motivates you? Being an electrician, is it you say you're not in the electrical business, you're in the people business, but something gets you up every morning, gets you going out to build a business that's nearly 10 million in sales. That is not easy to do. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work. I'm sure, like me, your phone rings at all hours of the day. There's always something going on, but what keeps you rolling, keeps you going, doing that?
My family, first of all, right? I know that getting up and providing for them is important, and providing a certain lifestyle for them. But when I said I had 42 employees, it goes a lot further than that, right? Yeah. I think we added it up the other day, and we're responsible for over 200 and something people, right? That depend on me getting up in the morning and making sure that something's happening, right? That's a lot of people, a lot of families. A lot of my guys have made this their career. That's how they're supporting their families, and I feel that desire to help them to reach their goals, so that they can have that lifestyle that they've always wanted.
That's awesome. So speaking of that, I know the service industry has struggled recently with hiring. No, it seems like there's not enough people going into the trades. Are you experiencing that as well?
Yeah, I mean, over the last several years, that's been a problem, trying to find the right people, especially on the heating and air conditioning side, right? Like it's not tough to find people, but it's tough to find people that you'd want to send in into somebody's. And nothing against the heating and air conditioning business, right? But it's just the people that we've found, like I don't know that I want to send some of those guys
a little rougher under the collar.
into people's homes. But it is a great business to be in. We actually, several years ago, we decided that so we don't have a lot of need for helpers, right? Apprentices.
Yeah.
Just working in service. A lot of times the jobs can be done with one person. But because we were having such a hard time finding new people or old, like people who were experienced in the electrical field or had the right licensing or whatever, since it was hard, we decided to put together an apprenticeship program. And so we hired quite a few apprentices, and that's kind of how we've been growing as of lately. Is we've been preparing those apprentices, training them.
That's great.
Sending them to school and doing all that stuff, and we've had some great success with that. Moving them from being an apprentice into being able to run calls, and so we've got a great group of apprentices right now, and the guys that we have, probably most of them that we have right now have come up through the ranks.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been good.
Smart to be able to control your supply of one of your most needed assets, which are your people. And if you can't get them elsewhere, then you got to create them yourself. That's cool. So switching gears a little bit, talk about partnerships. You have a partner. You started as partner with family, and now your current partner. How does that dynamic work? How do you navigate? Those things can be a little tricky, I know. So,
well, when I became a partner in Hadley Electric, or with my other three partners, they had done a really good job of making sure that they had created the right type of atmosphere, right? Where they kept track of things, they made sure things were equal. There was nothing that could be ever looked at down, and they were all hard workers, right? So that's one thing is each one of them in their different ways had a way of working hard. And so that was very important. The fact that it was my dad and my uncle and then another guy who wasn't family, I don't know how he would, he was definitely not an outsider because he was like family. He was like a brother or a dad or an uncle to me. But we always made sure that everything as far as like financially went, which is the biggest probably aspect of having partners, that everything was done right, made equal. We had a funny rule, and that was that, and if any of them listen this again, there's no, it's nothing bad, but the rule is that we're the four partners, our wives are our companions, right? Yeah. But sometimes the wives look and think, man, you're getting treated unfairly, or you're working a lot more than the other partners. And so the unfairness, fair is one of those words. It's like a 4-letter F word, right? Because nothing's fair in life.
Nope.
So that worked out really well. I actually loved being partners with those three, and things worked out. And I don't know that we ever had, each of us was quick to say sorry if there was something, right? We didn't hold grudges. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
When Steve and I became partners, he's like a brother that had, I've got two other brothers, but he's like a brother to me, and that's good, right? Like I would do anything for him, and he would do anything for me, and we have our differences, right? Like he's a very type A personality, and I'm more of a laid back guy, but putting those two things together also created our growth opportunities, right? With Hadley Electric, we weren't really growth minded. We kind of grew organically or did the things that we needed to do,
right?
But we were also running a new construction business and all of that. And when Steve and I got together, between his experience and my experience, we were able to, we've grown the company from, in 2013, we were probably doing a little over $2 million, right? So in the last 10 years, we've jumped up
5 times.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, it's been good growth. Could we have done faster? Probably, but there's a certain comfort level that we have. But yeah, so for me, being a partner, being a partner, I've had good partners, right?
Yeah.
And so that definitely helps.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I know from my standpoint, you guys have built a great business here in Weber County. It's well respected. Everybody knows who you are, you know what I mean? They know the business,
that's the goal.
And that's the key, right? We always talk about on the marketing side, attention is an asset. If people are paying attention,
right,
that's one of your biggest assets as a business. As soon as people forget about you, your business is on the way down. So that's cool. Well, that's pretty awesome. Any last thing I usually ask here is, if someone else is a budding entrepreneur, they want to start a business, they want to be in business for themselves or have a partnership, what advice would you give that brand new aspiring entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I guess it would depend on what kind of business they're in, but one of the things that helped me the most was this best practices group that I joined. Right? I was a great electrician.
Yeah.
That's what I'd been trained to do. I had no idea how to take care of finances. I had an idea, but
sure.
Right. Luckily, my uncle was very good at that too, so I learned a lot from him. But I would say the biggest thing that somebody needs to know is their numbers.
Yeah.
Nothing drives me more crazy than to go to a business owner and start asking him about some of his numbers and him not being able to give me the numbers because ultimately, again, we're in the people business. So being able to relate with people and understand that, most businesses are people business, right? You've got a product you're trying to get out to a consumer. You've got to make that relevant to them and make them feel comfortable. But you've also got to know where your numbers are.
Right.
How much can you spend? What percentages of advertising should I be spending? Right. Those types of things. And if you can manage to learn that, right? I feel like this best practices group that I'm a part of turned me from an electrician into a businessman.
So is it a specific to the electrical industry?
Yes.
Best practices?
Okay. Well, so they have different groups. So it's one big group, but they have an HVAC division, a plumbing division, electrical, and they actually have roofing as part of it.
So too. Home services type.
So basically it's a home services group.
That's cool.
But they have the different specifics, right? They had essentially what they did in the beginning is took a model company and said, okay, how's this company running? It's very profitable and very successful. And they started putting all those systems and procedures in. Yeah. And that would be the other thing that I would say, right? Have your standard operating procedures written down.
Yeah.
So that like if I have a secretary who leaves, it's very easy for us to plug somebody back in there because we have those standard operating procedures written down and they can follow those.
I find that very true. Successful organizations have successful systems.
Yeah.
And when you talk to business owners, people who run companies, executives, managers, when they have good systems in place, the whole organization, it's easier to grow. They're not surprised by growth. And if they're experiencing downturns, then there's a system on how to get it back on track too. And so that's great.
We've struggled a little bit with that one, but again, it's knowing your numbers, right?
Right.
We've done a really good job this year, I think, of knowing where our budget is and whether we're ahead of budget or behind budget, and then what corrective actions there are to do that. And I think every business needs to know that. Otherwise, you feel like you're flying by the seat of your pants.
That was 2022 for me. Our costs went up so incredibly much. I just felt like it was one fire to the next fire to the next fire. As soon as one would get put out or feel like it was under control, something else would spring up, and oh man, that whole year. And it just made me realize how much of the business flows through me, and it was all my fault and all my problem, and it was painful. I had to make some changes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's the ability to do that, to make those changes and see what's going on as well.
Well, when you're smaller, I'm quite a bit smaller than you. You're a little more agile because I make the decision, right? You've got 42 people that you're making a decision for. I have, maybe 10, so it's just not nearly as many, but yeah, that's cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. So tell people where they can find you, what the best way to get a hold of you or find out more about your company.
Sure. Yeah, we've got our website, right, which is masterelectrical.com. Our phone number is 801-543-2222. It's easy. 543 and then 2222.
I like it.
So that's we love to take care of our clients. One other thing that I forgot to mention, just and you know this, we do duct cleaning also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
helps with allergens and
going into the spring and having that furnace run all winter long.
Yeah.
Be good to
very cool.
Done, so.
Well, if you need electrical help or HVAC work or duct cleaning, you're not doing remodels anymore.
Nope.
Stop doing that.
Yep.
You did that for a little while during the boom when everybody was remodeling. So, but Master Total Home Services. The website's Master.
It's masterelectrical.com.
Electrical.
Yeah. Everything's pretty much under Master Electrical right now.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on and being on the show, and we appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay. Well,
did you get enough time?
We did.